Thank you for staying with us. It's still VOP this morning on Voice of the People Television, moving into the conversation proper. The Speaker of the House of Representatives, Tajuddin Abbas, has withdrawn a controversial bill that proposed jail terms for individuals who refuse to recite the national anthem. Meanwhile, a newly proposed bill aims to impose strict penalties on individuals who criticize politicians or use the old national anthem. If passed, offenders could face up to 10 years in prison or a fine of 5 million naira. The bill has sparked significant public debate and concerns over its potential impact on civil liberties. However, Nigerians have begun calling for the abolishment of the bill while describing it as an anti-people and decree in democratic society. As a matter of fact, some people also are making this look like it's like House Representative members are targeting on individuals. We also have that other bill that talk about people who are sponsoring a protest and how many years jail time they also bag. We have with us in the studio this morning to help make sense of this topic, Dr. Gani Oluwashola, FCTI Managing Partner, KJV Professional Services. Good morning.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
All right, good to have you in today's show. We have this issue on the table where Nigerians are calling or beginning to react to the subversion bill proposed in the House of Representatives floor, where Nigerians now, according to the bill, they said if you cannot recite the reintroduced national anthem, you stand the chance of bagging 5 million naira fine or 10 years imprisonment. And not just that, also, Nigerians who sponsor protest have a certain term that they can also bag from, doing so. And what we want to ask, what does this really portend? What does it really have to do with Nigeria and our liberty as a people?
So when you read the caption, right, it's a bit laughable. I will start with a Yoruba proverb that says, "Abeni lori kone fe ki won fada kojo ori ohun." In other words,
that's what it means in Igbo. Basically, okay, well, go ahead and explain in English.
So in other words, which means that once you do something for people and you know they might likely do it for you back, you want to create an hedge so that it does not come because you don't want to feel the heat. Before they became a politician, they've once abused the politician. Before they become a politician, they once staged protest at Ojota, at everywhere. So why now? So, and we say we don't want military regime, right? So our behavior, our character, our body language is even worse than the military guys, right? So if you are now sponsoring a bill that says that even if I do not do good, don't abuse me, just watch me, right? And if you dare say any word, I'm going to send you to jail. And look at Aisha Yesufu. She said she don't mind going to jail. Even Obi Ezekwesili, she also said likewise. Because the question is that who sponsor it? Tajuddin Abbas. What's the rationale behind it? This is the question that Beck can answer. What's the rationale behind it? Or why not sponsor a bill that sent to jail, a jail time for corrupt politician? Right, because there was a time that says once you are found corrupt as a politician, this will happen. And someone says that no, until you steal up to 1 trillion naira.
That was the chief whip himself.
So you can see the body language for you don't want to feel an heat. So why not jail time for bandits and kidnappers?
Is it that our lawmakers now they don't really understand how Nigeria is at this present time? Because when you look at some of the laws that are swiftly passed, the bills that are swiftly passed, for example, that of the reintroduced national anthem, are we not creative enough to have create or write a new national anthem in Nigeria? Why go back to the old one?
Aside from bill, you see there are some things that what annoys Nigerians is that these are infinitesimal things. These are not what will bring food on the table. Excuse me, these are not what is going to clothe me, right? These are not what is something that is going to improve my well-being as a citizen of Nigeria or increase my purchasing power, right? So, and you did not sponsor a bill that will create an environment that is conducive for business to thrive. You did not sponsor a bill that will make it very well for investors to come. You did not sponsor a bill that will send to jail kidnappers and banditry. You did not sponsor a bill that will actually that will curb a lot of things. These are things, and there's a Latin word in law that says that nema dot cod not a bet. You can't give what you don't have, right? So if you don't have a fresh idea, it's better that, oh, let me keep quiet and see what will happen, right? So rather than coming up with things that we create, yes, I appreciate what he did. He quickly withdrew it. He said, oh, I'm sorry, he quickly withdrew it. But ab initio, you shouldn't have come up with something like that, where there are a lot of germane thing that is happening. Over time, our naira was appreciating. Now it started dwindling. Now $1 to a naira is around over 1,600. So I was talking to someone to get a $10,000. He said I would need over 16 million, which in order before now, last year, to get $10,000, you need less than 5 million. Right now, you need almost 17 million for $10,000. So these are things that we should look into very well and look at the bills we are going to pass that is going to affect an average Nigeria, affect industry positively, increase purchasing power of people, and make the country good for investors to come in so that the economy will thrive appropriately.
Okay, right. Okay. Thanks, Dr. Oluwashola, for this very fantastic expose you have made. Let's go back a little bit. You know, this law was introduced sometime in July, a few days, like 7 days ahead of the national protest, that we held. So, considering the fact that, like you said, in the midst of this national crisis, is it what we should be talking about now? Do you see this bill, was it an attempt to guard the freedom of speech in Nigeria? Is it an attempt to say, look, Nigerians, you don't have the right to say as much as you want to say, even if you are angry, or even if you are dissatisfied with what you get from your government? Is it an attempt to, to shut Nigerians out of the media space?
One of the most germane things that we practically ignore in our constitution is these three major words. We talk about equity, we talk about fairness, and we talk about justice. So when you are passing a bill that is having self-interest, that is to protect you, to shield you, then that's not a bill. A bill that you are passing that does not affect, that does not have a positive impact on our economy, on the life of citizens of Nigeria, then it's not a bill. Because what are they abusing? Are they abusing me? No, you are shielding yourself so that nobody abuse me. So who bring you into the seat? They are citizens, they are taxpayers, they are individual. And who pay your salary? It's actually we, the taxpayer, that pays their salary.
Oh, okay, so you see this more like an attempt to restrict Nigeria.
Definitely. Once you say don't abuse, it has affected your freedom of speech, and even it's going to affect.
No, but talking about the freedom of speech, there's also the hate speech. Yeah. There's hate speech. There's a National Commission for the Prohibition of Hate Speech bill that was sponsored in 2019. I don't recall exactly how that one panned out, but we've been talking about hate speech. All right. Yes, that one was stepped down because of some stringent punitive measures that were attached to it. And Amnesty International spoke against it. But the bottom line is, some of those things that hate speech and freedom of information bill address, we already have the Cybercrime Act that addresses some of these issues. And there's also the conversation around where one man's right stops, that's where another man's right begins. So should we be promoting verbal attacks on individuals, political office holders, anybody at all? Should that be the case if one is trying to express their freedom of expression?
When we talk about freedom expression and when we talk about verbal attack, it's relative. It depends on what you're saying. Even in line with our culture, right? You don't abuse people directly or say that, oh, you're mad, you are stupid, you are deaf, you are dumb, right? That looks like a very strong, even in a culture, in a corporate organization, once you do that, you will be sanctioned either to be suspended or be sacked because those are verbal abuse, right? Then it now talks about, I'm saying that what you're doing, you are not doing well enough. You are not representing me well enough. You are just siphoning money. Then you can now say that, oh, it's an abuse of my personality. Look at what is happening in the US between Kamala and Trump. Look at what Trump is picking up and saying Kamala is like this. And so in those ways, if we are not careful, we outstretch things, and we now put some credence on things that should not be credence. So if you talk about freedom of speech has to do that you express yourself without attacking people, right? Without attacking people and without speaking vulgar languages, which is bad, right? But when you now say that, oh, abuse of politicians, you not even say abuse of citizen, abuse of business owner. So once you streamline it of politician, it shows that the bill ab initio, it has a loophole, it has a fault.
Okay. All right then. Well, we are being joined now by Mr. Sheson Okwade, who is a chartered accountant, tax professional, and transport administrator. Well, good to have you join the conversation today.
Yeah, good morning, Moses.
And I hope you brought birthday gifts, because I learned you had your birthday some days back.
Well, just in the air, just sharing those gifts.
I chatted birthday, man.
Okay, audio gifts.
Yeah,
Audio gifts.
Yeah, all those virtual gifts. Now that we have physical and virtual, we just had to balance everything.
No virtual here because you're here physically. Oh well. Now with this conversation about the proposed bill that has been stepped down now, but doesn't it bring some? Should Nigerians be concerned as to the reasoning of our political office holders? How will anyone conceive an idea to bring out a bill that will ultimately gag Nigerians, prevent Nigerians from exercising their civic responsibility, civil rights?
Yeah, I think what happened to me this morning, while I was on my way here, we support some of my submission this morning, the part our politicians play on an average citizen. On my way from, when you come out at the custom to link the bridge, you know, I came into throwing because there was traffic on the other side. So I want to put it across to the road safety. What law stipulates that people should not use plate number? I want to ask that question.
People should not use plate numbers.
People say, what is the essence and importance of plate number on a particular vehicle? Because what happened this morning speaks to the volume that our politicians, with what you've risen, are there to oppress the masses. And it's quite disheartening, because we would have lost a life this morning to the reckless driving of some of these political holders with the aim of carrying siren and taking people off the road. If you have an appointment to catch up with, leave yours on time. This guy came out and was driving recklessly because he's carrying somebody to the airport and almost killed somebody off the road. Because I'm a road safety core person, I had to look at way to follow through, but there is no means of identifying that vehicle.
Because the vehicle had...
Because it had no plate number. And the road safety will see this and they will take off their eyes. Law enforcement agency will see this and there are police officers inside the escort. It speaks volume to some of the things that we're saying here. Why won't the legislator come and say they will actually imprison you if you don't sing the national anthem? You are not speaking of how you are actually impoverishing people that you need to be dealt with yourself. You make law in your favor against humanity. Is the road only meant for the politicians and the high elites? I've always referred to when Fashola was in this state as the #1 man. He hardly use siren. If there is a traffic on the road, we need to go through it together because it's a sign of failure on your part. Why do you need siren if you are passing the road? If you have indeed engaged the service of the law enforcement agency and you know you are doing what is right, you don't need police protection.
Well, ultimately, it feels like our elected officials are above the people. You know, like
They are above the law, and I'm saying it here. They are above the law, and that's why somebody can wake up, because majority of the people that you see, even the national anthem you're talking about, to say you want to criminalize, a lot of them, because they are the old schools, knows the national anthem, but the younger generation, they are still learning it. They are still learning it. Someone that started with Arise to Come Patriot, that's what they learned. You are reverting him back to learn what you learned those days. Because it's easier for you to sing. Because you sang it those days, you feel that everybody should plug into it and key into it. Is that the priority that we have here with people that are hungry? You see me every time I come here as a business owner, our business, just as between last 2 weeks and now, I've seen organizations retrenching massively. We are not addressing those issues. Those that are actually retrenched, where are they going to be?
All right, now, Dr. Oluwashola, when you look at what this bill stipulates, the bill says that anyone found guilty of destroying national symbol, refusing to recite the national anthem and pledge, defacing a place of worship with intent to incite violence or undermining the federal government shall face the fine, 5 million, 10 years imprisonment. It also went further to talk about people that want to start doing roadblocks and unlawful procession and all that. And the reason for this introduction of the bill, actually, according to them,
that it's been stepped down.
yeah, it has been stepped down, but the reason was for this was introduced to target activities perceived as threat to national security, stability, or public order.
But the question we should...
Maybe even my brother. Before you said it's been stepped down.
Yes.
That's grammar. So you can reawake it tomorrow. It should be cancelled for now. Not stepping things down. I'm sorry. It should, for now, our priority should be about the people and not this. We understand the flight that if you deface or do anything, you can punish the person because it's about national symbol, but not for national anthem that somebody is not ready to. We know those days because we are very enthusiastic. When you
I
was
going to come back to. There's a question I was going to ask in that regard, but
sorry, my brother. This politician.
Yes, I wanted to clear the issue of was it actually stepped down or the bill?
It was withdrawn.
It was withdrawn.
He withdrew it not apologetic, but he just said that anything that will affect or that will trigger pain in the that. I appreciate that. One, I appreciate because if he wants to be like some leaders, he would have been dogged about it that I'm not withdrawing. But
there was an outcry.
Yeah, there was an outcry.
Okay,
there was an outcry on a lot of things.
Dr.
Subsidy, was there no outcry?
Okay,
there was an outcry.
That's where I want to come in. That's where I want to come in. Do you see this withdrawal as an expression of the people's power? More like an expression of people's power. They are beginning to listen to people now. That's on one side. And I like that you mentioned about, the regime being protectionist in nature. You have opening comments. You said something like the regime is very protectionist. They only do things for themselves, more like being self-serving. If you put together all that has happened in the recent past, does it point to this particular government having dictatorial tendencies? What should we fear? What should be our fears, considering what we see around us?
So when you look at this, particularly, let me even quickly say, even this bill, if it wasn't withdrawn, it will affect them. How many of them can even, without looking at their phone or looking at book, can sing the national anthem, the new one?
They will.
Say.
Check them. Just compatriots.
Just to clarify.
When you see a policeman that was singing.
It is the Arise of compatriots they cannot sing because that came after they've left school.
And they've forgotten this one too.
We have a lot of
them are quite young too.
Yes, we have a lot of young.
Even the old one.
But the bill did say those who refuse not those who cannot mime it, or those who cannot mouth it properly. Those who refuse, like we saw in a video, just when the anthem was enacted into law, we saw Aisha Yusufu refusing to stand up to recite the national anthem at an event. That's outright refusal. I think that's what the bill was trying to address.
So when you see somebody that matches your capacity, then you step down. So you can see that these are power block itself. I shall say I'm not going to do that.
Well, he did ask a question
Right?
does this relate to the fact that politicians are beginning to listen to the people?
Listen is relative, depending on who is talking. Right? Listen is relative. Because when you see the two people that say that we are not going to sing, they are power block themselves. So you can say that it's relative. But if I say I'm not going to sing now, you will say next thing, right? So it's not mean that people have been shouting about this fuel subsidy, and even they say that subsidy is back indirectly, but we are not. Okay, look at now. You know, at times it bleeds my heart. When before the protest, all of them were agitating, and they said that, oh, we are releasing bags of rice. We are going to sell it for 40,000 and every other thing. Immediately those things knows that we suspect we are not selling again. So the question is that you give with one hand and you take it back from with the next hand. So it does not show a lot of sincerity and also truthfulness in the place of our leaders. And these are a lot of watching and a lot of body language. And also it sends a lot of signals to the global world, because it also has an impact on our investors. That if, people believe that once you say it as a leader, we must be able to see you achieving it. And if an investor is looking at what is happening, if I bring in my money, I might not be able to get a corresponding or an appropriation to be able to support this thing. So all these things needs to be looked at it in an holistic way.
Let me throw the question to Sheson Okwade now. With what we have seen, I did point to the proposed National Commission Prohibition of Hate Speech Bill 2019, the thought of it, all right? And we're seeing this one now, the thought of it as well, in as much as these things have not come into effect, but the fact that somebody somewhere will sit down and think about it, doesn't this point to the fact that the APC administration, and we've also seen things that have happened during protests. We saw a very prominent protest in recent times, the 2020, and hashtag EndSARS, how that one panned out, how protesters were attacked, and this is according to Amnesty International and world observers, how protesters were attacked and killed, and the things that followed. And also the very recent one, the hashtag End Bad Governance protest, things that panned out. Does this point to the fact that the APC administration are tyrannical in policies?
You see, you are right, because
they are tyrannical in policies.
Yeah, the approach at which they are given, quite unfortunate that people like us give our weight behind the current administration, but what is trunking out is really not what we bargained for, irrespective of any explanation people are giving to it. And what do I mean? A lot of things are affecting the daily living of the citizen day by day. I've been asking myself the question since this administration took over. I doubt if there's any month we don't complain about the issue of fuel scarcity. It's been lingering on and off. And as a transport administrator, I know the impact of logistics on businesses. When you have to spend hours, queuing for fuel, of which should have been more productive for you out there. So you ask yourself, every policies that we've been speaking or we've been talking that we want to do, up till now, we had a policy of paying 6-month allowance to civil servants, even though they are the one we've come to serve this administration. After 2 months, we didn't hear anything again.
It's about the
35,000
okay.
allowance to them. Because we asked some of them that were there, since they are very close to the corridor of power, they should help those boys that are not closer, how they can benefit from what they've collected. Because like my friend said, it's still our taxpayers' money that is actually working. You've seen them talking about dishing out rice to be sold to the civil servant at 40,000 when they register, even though withdrawn. Up till now, I've not heard about just one person saying that I bought this right at that rate. How can we be consistent? We've said
But
it.
to give an excuse in that regard, that the rice were being bought by civil servants and resold at 85,000 naira.
Will somebody who has been part of this country, will you not have that idea? Some of us came up to say it, that you are only enriching some certain set of people, even if it is not the civil servant. When such thing happens, the business mogul themselves, who has the money, will go ahead, use their connection to get it and sell it.
Well,
Okay, so Mr. Sosho, you believe that there was actually rice given out?
Me, I didn't see.
Okay.
Okay, because I'm trying to situate the whole
Me, I
thing.
didn't see, because I asked the question that even the rice that they were going to sell for 40,000, where did they get it from? Because we were complaining of food shortage, and all of a sudden there is surplus in such a way that you can actually make those. So each time, you see, across board, when we talked about the issue of power, we've asked the question. You said you have increased tariff and give more people. Have we increased our generation? The answer is no. You said you want to give more rice. Have we increased our production? So it's like you are taking from some people to give to those that can afford some of those things, and these things cannot continue. You see,
Okay,
every day I keep appealing to the government.
Okay.
Allow the small and medium businesses to survive so that we can have a growth in this country.
Thank you. Mr. Sosho, let me stay with you on that. You said, Moses asked a question and you answered in the affirmative, and that's exactly almost the question I threw at Dr. Olua Shola. I want us to get at something. Like Moses asked if you see some tyrannical tendencies in the policies of this government, and I asked Dr. Olua Shola, are we seeing some kind of dictatorial tendencies in this present government? And where does that, should we be afraid of our democracy? Because this is how it starts. You saw people who sponsored protests over time, 2011, 2014, and these people are now saying, Nigerians, no, you can't protest, you can't go to this square, you can't go to this Eagle Square, you can't go to this is the only place. Limiting the freedom of movement, of freedom to exercise, opinions and freedom of speech and all of that. Do you see this, are we safe with our democracy?
Yeah, well, I will continue to say that we are safe. It's the players that are there that are actually doing what they feel they need to do to protect themselves. You see, the truth of the matter is you don't have understanding of what it looks like until when you get involved into the issues that is before you. 2011, 2014 was as if that administration then did not know what they were doing. And here we are, 2024. You are in the same shoe with them, and you're saying that people should not. In fact, if you look back, I think people were better off then than what we're seeing now. And I've seen them come up to tell us that it's a global problem. But I keep saying that our own is peculiar, because as those global problem is, those other countries, the developed country, has a system to check into the activities. I keep asking, why would people want to leave if it's a global problem? Why are they leaving our own terrain for those other countries that you say is a global problem? They are facing the same thing. And they are having, at least a leveler for them to play on. This is where government, see the way our before now, I will always say, well, let's give them time, let's do, but the attitude of an average politician speaks to the fact that they are not sensitive to the plight of an average Nigerian, and they need to just watch it. Mr. President needs to come out and address people on this particular issue. The lieutenant, those that are actually working with him, to know that governance is not for the few, but for the people. Even though we don't have the might to recall, to impeach, to do anything because of the process that is so cumbersome, they should know that there is law of karma, and posterity will always judge for everything that you do in position of leadership.
Okay, Dr. So I like the fact that you made this very important summation. But it's kind of curious when you say that we shouldn't fear for our democracy, and in one breath you are saying that the problem is with our players. It's like we go to play with, 11-11 on both sides, and we have spectators. And on my side, my team is not doing very well, and you say I should not be afraid.
You should not be afraid. All you need to do is to guide your team the more and see the best how you can meet up with your opponent.
Okay, so
both of you have a leveler, 11-11.
If there is one.
So I'm only quoting what they said. Okay. We are both playing if we believe but we are not on the same path.
No, that's not exactly what I'm saying. You said the problem is with our leaders.
Of course.
The people who actually design and protect our democracy, or they hold it for us in trust.
Yes.
And they are not, you admit that they are not doing very well.
Yeah.
And the fact that they are not doing very well, you turn around to say that we should not be afraid of failure.
We should not be afraid.
So what should we do?
Most of the thing we need to do as we speak is to continue to speak out.
So that means we should be afraid.
Which this particular administration have come up to say that it is more like leading to, disruption of national security and also, distorting public sectors too. Because that was the reason this bill was brought up initially in the first place. And that was the question I asked Dr. Oluwashola earlier.
For the legislator, they perceived it that way. The executive, have they done that? The judiciary. So we cannot, out of three, feel that one can form an opinion.
During the time NLC did the protest against the Minimum Wage Act have not been enacted, the president himself, who happened to be number one person, stood up to even throw a jab to them, telling them that they don't have the right to protest. They should wait till 2027 for them to, lend in their voice. You see, one thing I will state here is that our leaders need to separate governance from politics. We keep, at every little thing that happens, we tend to bring politics into it, and that's not the way to go. We should face the real thing that is actually happening there. People clamor for 30,000 or 70,000 from 600. No, they actually clamored for more than that. For more than that, but we came to. But people like us who are in the business space, an employer of labor, cried out to say, we actually don't want increment in salary. We want a business environment where it's conducive for businesses to grow. That with your 30,000, really, can't we have an increase in salaries and a conducive business environment? I will tell you that they too cannot go pari passu. How so? All we need to do is to look for a way to strengthen our currency. I've told you here, when you go to this developed country, you have $100. It's like you're having a lot of the people out there don't even touch those $100. They work with $1, $2, $3 of things they can afford. When are we going? When we were growing up, we know about 50 kobo. We know about 1 kobo, 5 kobo that people can use to do one or two things. They are but now those things are limited, actually. They don't have a lot of them in circulation. It's not that they don't have. They are still there, lying idle in the bank, but they cannot buy anything. What can you buy for 5 naira or 10 naira or 20 naira? But those days, those things are there. You even do it and collect your change to the last kobo. But these days, the minimum thing you can actually get out there. I was shocked when somebody wanted to buy biscuits somewhere, not even in a mall. I was trying to withdraw from POS, and he said one biscuit that we used to buy 5 naira then is now 3 for 200 naira. And I said at this level, so there is nothing for 50 naira again. These are biscuit, I don't know, Costa biscuit. Well, let's not mention the brand. I try to, but it's quite disheartening. These are biscuits you buy for 5 naira. So it is when you bring down the cost of some of those things that you give value to that currency. It's not about, if you get to a level, they will tell you that 1,000 is of no value. Let's go and print 10,000 naira, one note. But in those days, compare 1,000 to 100 naira. $100 is the highest denomination for those other people. And you hardly see, it is we people when we want to travel that we want to flaunt it and get 100. When you get out there, in fact, when you give some people $100, like 10 in a store, they look at you and go to like 2, 3 levels to validate and authenticate the currency you are giving to them. It happens a lot because they hardly see that. So that is the level I feel we should take this country to, in such a way that I can see our 100 naira, I can see our 10 naira, 20 naira, being able to
give value to you, not the current one where our purchasing power is already in negative.
All right, Doctor, let me come back to you now. Talking about our lawmakers and the ideology that they have come to develop, that they are superior to the people. The conversation around making lawmaking part-time, do you think that will go, in any extent in helping?
That's the perfect way to do it, because even in the Europe that we are
Mimicking, yeah.
we are mimicking or we mirror. That's what they do in the UK. That's what they do. That's why you could say that. Oh, look at now, Iraq. Is it Iran? Iraq. The prime minister, he stepped down because he was not comfortable. One was sacked, right? Look at what happened in UK also. The prime minister, she discovered that she's not, because they don't say things there that is juicy.
It's not a do or die.
Yeah, it's not. If it's juicy, you make it a do or die. It's because it's not juicy. They did not. That's why you can say a typical senator goes to office with a train or with his bicycle, because the office is not juicy. It's even in our little palace here, in our institute, we have a meeting. We go for a meeting. They give you, because the meeting, the allowance is not juicy. So it's just like you are doing it, like giving back to the institute and to the community. So you are not seeing it as a do or die. So until we get to that space, that is what we now have Nigeria at heart. You see, we have lost a lot of organization in Nigeria. There was a time that Peugeot is being manufactured in Nigeria, even in Kaduna, around Kakuri. Do you still remember this biscuit called Okim biscuits?
Oh, yes, I do.
We have the round one and we have the four corners one that looks so sweet and juicy. Where is it again? That is in Kwara. You know this biscuit they call Nasco biscuit?
Well, I think they still operate in the market.
They've left the shore of Nigeria.
Okay.
Right? So you could see
imported now.
You could see a lot of things happening. And GSK left, and it's having an impact on our medical strength. So these are the things, a typical and a patriotic Nigeria, these are the things that call for highest level of concern. But when we are growing up, somebody gave me a 50 kobo, and I used 50 kobo to buy a cordro and a top.
Lumberjack.
Oh, so you could see how, and it's a new note, it's a crimson new note. So now, you see, I appreciate what Sheso did. There was a time they also want to propose and say that we have a 5,000
naira.
What is? Yes. Then you will just, do you know, someone went to the bank the other time and they gave him 20 naira. Say, does this money still exist? It shows how we've devalued our currency and look so much, and someone in his right senses is comparing Cameroon with Nigeria. Cameroon, that the population is not up to Lagos. And saying because Cameroon now, for you to buy a loaf of bread, it's going to, if you're an average mature person in Cameroon, is a millionaire. That's how bad their currency is. So should we move to that? We are giant of Africa. We should look at the way, and
that assertion is
Ghana currency is now stronger than Nigerian currency. Ghana here that we chase away when there's Ghana must go. They are the one that mend our plastic, because leaders think. Right, until we get to that space, and our leaders are indeed exposed. They travel wide, and they know what is obtainable in the global space. Why can't we mirror it, bet it in Nigeria, so that we have an environment that even is good for business to come in and try?
All right, so talking about having an inclusive government, the House of Representatives is a selection of individuals by their constituents to represent them, of course, as the name implies. But as it stands right now, it doesn't seem like they're representing the interests of the people. And then we're talking about, after this bill was withdrawn, the conversation around inclusivity has been brought up again. Can we have a situation whereby Nigerians now, the common man, can be involved in some of the policies brought up by House of Reps and the Senate, basically the National Assembly? Can there be some, level of inclusion in the coming up of the enacting of laws?
Moses, you want to open another conduit of way of taking our money again.
How so?
When you organize town hall meeting, do you know the billions that go into it? We don't spend millions to organize some of those things. These are things that you should carry out, intermittently within your constituency. You ask yourself the question, how many of them go back to their base as it should be for stakeholders' engagement? We've seen video going viral where some people are being stoned because they feel that they have not done what is expected of them. I can't remember constituency project being carried out by these people any longer. Before now, we used to even see pipe-borne water, this water that they construct.
Well, some of them have done bridges across canals, even though they might be wooden bridges, but it's some sort of constituency project, isn't it?
So I wish some of those things can still be visible for some of us to see, because we've seen it nosediving. A lot of them stayed fully, even when they are on break, even when they are
on water,
even when they are on 3 month or 2 months break, they are not even going back to their constituency. They would rather jet out of the country to go and spend money. So the truth of it is that inclusion, it's subjective in the sense that even when they organize that town hall meeting with so much funds, claim to be their personal funds, whatever suggestion you give there ends there without anyone taking decisive action on some of the things that are bothering
us. For time now, what then should be the way forward?
Well, the way forward is I will still go back to a situation where we can review the status of recalling back some of these leaders when they are not doing what they are supposed to do. The executive are set up by
the process to do that is the problem.
It's a cumbersome. That is where we should start. That's why most of the time when protesters are talking or people are saying this, that we want this, I say, these are areas we need to address. How can we, one way or the other, look for a way, a senator, House of Rep, House of Assembly, representing us, not staying within our constituency, to know the pain that we are going through? How can you express that pain when you are not feeling it? Somebody staying within us, blowing siren, and can see gullies that has caused traffic and not responsive to fix it. But all you will do is to blow siren and chase everybody off the road. If at all you have opportunity to come to that base, these are areas we must start addressing. Because I can tell you there is wide disparity between those that are governing us and those of us that are being governed, and they must start looking for a way to close it up. I must say, they must start looking for a way to close, with so much that individuals of them are actually earning and having as allowances. How many of them has actually created business opportunity for those in their localities to actually benefit?
All right, we'll come back to the issue of allowances, because that's the next conversation that we're having. Let's get your parting shots in about 10 minutes, Doctor.
Yeah. Oh, so inclusiveness is better, is good, because like you're saying, that say 2 heads are better than 1. But the question is that what's the volume of fund we are imputing into it? If we can make it in a patriotic way, we are going to get a good result, and very good result. Just like what the EFCC chairman is saying, and said that, the process of arresting and apprehending all thefts is getting longer. Let us have another body that will make it speedy. So we can also, the process of pulling back our constituency representative, let us create a body that is swift. Within 2 weeks, within 3 months, we are pulling you back. So if they know, people will not do something until they know that there are consequences. Once they know there are consequences, they are going to sit tight. Averagely, most of them know the right thing to do. It's because there are no consequences. But once we have consequences, you see that they have ideas. Things will get better.
All right, then. Thank you very much, Dr. Oluwasola Ganiu and Cheton Kwade. And we'd like you gentlemen to stay with us as we get into another conversation.
We're moving into the second topic of discussion for today. Lawmaker's salary. Senator Sumaila reveals his monthly allowance is 21 million naira. We'll look into this topic when we return. Please stay with us.